that human insight, we think it's incredibly important as we help support organisations in their development to make sure that they root that development in the business context that they're operating within. And to help them with that, we use the framework of an S-curve. And what I'd like to do today is use this opportunity to explain how we can use that S-curve to understand the different stages of organisational development, the challenges that that brings to leadership, and also what support it can give for an individual in their own development. The S-curve shape is one that people often in marketing are quite familiar with, as it's used to test product maturity. And I'm going to describe first how you can look at it to look at organisational maturity. The early stages of an S-curve, stage 1, are really about designing a new future for an organisation. And the leadership challenges at those stages are around creating a new future, being very open to new ideas emerging, and creating the conditions for innovation to emerge, and making sure those innovations have a chance to seed. A lot of it is about building the alignment around people and getting your business model to be clear. As you move up to stage 2, upscaling, if you've got a successful idea, then naturally you're going to need to start to put in place processes to enable that idea to become implemented. And let's assume that that is successful. There should be a long, we hope, stage 3, where you're operating those processes successfully to deliver your product or business model into the marketplace. But we know that that success cannot continue ad infinitum, because there are competitors out there, and they will want to have some piece of that success. And they will bring out Me Too models or Me Too products or services so that they can take some part of that margin that you're enjoying. So in order to be able to stretch that S-curve, organisations naturally start to look at stage 4, starting to bring efficiencies into their processes. Many people will have heard of such mechanisms as Six Sigma or Lean. And these are very effective ways of making sure that you have the most efficient processes so that you can increase the opportunity for profit and margin in the business that you provide. But at some point in time, you will need to change that business model. Perhaps the service that you're delivering into the marketplace is no longer relevant because the marketplace itself may have changed. Your customers may be demanding something different. And at these times, organisations need to be able to reinvent their S-curve. In nature, of course, it's not always that easy. Once we've been born, we grow, at some point we'll age and we'll die. But organisations have an opportunity to reinvent a new S-curve and become newly relevant to the marketplace in which they serve. Now, this all sounds very obvious, but the finesse or the timing around how you make those changes in your organisation are much more difficult to understand and are really the ones that are a test for leadership and the teams with which they operate. What I'd like to explore now is a little bit about those challenges for leadership. And that's really about bringing the right talent together at the right time and making sure that the processes that are there in the organisation support that talent at its stage. If you look at the bottom of the S-curve, the new stage when you're investing in a new vision and upscaling, really it's very little process that should be needed there. It's all about communicating new ideas. It's about taking risk. It's a very intangible, future-driven stage of the S-curve. Whereas if you look at the top of the S-curve, you're all about squeezing efficiencies out of processes, creating structures, creating norms, because that helps create some predictability and certainty and efficiency, which means that things can run time and time again very effectively. But those structures, once they're there, can also inhibit new ideas and growth from taking part. So we have a very emergent, Some call it sort of future-looking, complexity style of leadership that might be required at the bottom of the S-curve. And at the top of the S-curve, something that looks more at a sort of cause and effect, Newtonian, control type of leadership. And yet, as we move over to a new S-curve, we have to look at how are we going to provide the leadership we need to help our people transfer their skills from one model and way of working to a new, perhaps still not very well defined way of working. So the leadership at each stage requires a slightly different focus. But if we're going to be able to provide the conditions to help this organisation continue to develop and evolve naturally, there has to be some consistency around the values and approach and style that the leadership use, even if the focus and the targets and goals at each stage are different. What I'd like to talk to you now about S-curves is the importance of them for individuals, both for us in terms of our own development, but also for organisations in being able to harness the contribution that we can each make to an organisation's journey. At Human Insight, we've done a lot of research into this, and we've recognised 3 things that we think are really key to helping an individual and an organisation understand the best contribution that we can each make to that journey. Firstly, we look at people's instinctive drivers, be those towards change and innovation and new, or whether our instinctive drivers are more towards today and the past, perhaps controlling and stabilising our environment. You can understand, if we just look at the S-curve, that someone who likes inventing things and coming up with new ideas will probably be happiest at the early stage of an S-curve journey. Whereas somebody who's very good at project management or program management might enjoy most the middle stage of the S-curve. And someone whose expertise is in critiquing or crystallising efficiencies and processes might most enjoy the upper stages of an S-curve. All are vital at every stage of an organisation's journey. All that diversity is needed, but that focus might be different at each stage. Secondly, we recognise that individuals get their own focus of safety and attachment either from a focus on individuals or people or relationships, or perhaps more towards content and theories and matter. Each of these people will have a different slant to their S-curve journey in their career. So somebody who is a sales manager, for example, may use the S-curve to look at how they explore client relationships. And their particular interest might be in developing new relationships, or it might be in maintaining relationships. Somebody who is much more of a matter or content person, so let's suggest an IT professional, their S-curve might look at new technology design, or maintaining that technology, or providing control processes around that technology. So from those 2 slants alone, we can start to think about where our own individual energies might lie. And the third and final element is around the perspective that we like to take on an organisation. Are we somebody who likes to get into the deep technicalities of our professional area, whether it is IT or HR or finance or sales, and focus our energies on that area, becoming an expert perhaps in our field? Or are we someone who likes to take a more systemic umbrella approach to our area and look at how it interacts with other disciplines? So we might become more of a people manager as opposed to a professional, technical professional in our area. These 3 are so important in bringing together the communities and teams that an organisation needs to be able to work at each stage of its organisational journey. And it's also important for us to think about where our energies lie and how we can make that contribution work as well.